It's Tuesday, January 14th, 2025. Welcome to Bible Talk. My name is Ronald, so let's get into it. Today we'll be discussing from the book of Job, chapters 38 and 39. Chapter 38 begins with, "Then the Lord answered Job out of the whirlwind and said." Now, before we proceed, did you notice that the word Lord is in this verse is in capital letters? This was also the case in chapters 1 and 2. Now, when we see the word Lord written in capital letters, this is because it's God's personal name, Yahweh, Jehovah. We see that right out of the gate, God is being very personal with Job here. Now, the change in the writing of his name illustrates that God has been detached and distant. In chapters 3 through 37, the name Yahweh is not used. In those verses, God is called El Shaddai, God the Almighty. This verse also says, out of the whirlwind. Repeatedly in the Bible, a whirlwind is associated with a divine presence. It speaks to us of God's powerful, unimaginable nature that cannot be controlled or opposed. A few examples of this are God brought Elijah into heaven by a whirlwind in 2 Kings. God's presence is in a whirlwind in Psalm 77. God's coming is like a whirlwind, Isaiah 66, and God appeared to Ezekiel in a whirlwind in Ezekiel 1:4. And in this book, Job's troubles began when a great wind killed his children, Job 1:9. Now the Lord was in that storm. As I previously mentioned, God is becoming very personal with Job now, which contradicts what his friends would have said would happen. They said that he would continue to get silence from God unless he repented. However, the relationship is restored in rich terms now as God reveals himself to Job using his covenant name. Job had repeatedly called God to court, so to speak, to verify his innocence. And God finally comes to interrogate Job on some of the comments that he had made to his accusers. God was about to vindicate Job, but first he brought Job to a proper understanding of himself. In verse 38:3, it says, "I will question you." Now, God silenced Job's constant desire to ask questions of God by becoming Job's questioner. It must be mentioned that God never told Job the reason for his pain and suffering, nor about the conflict between himself and Satan, which was the reason for Job's suffering. God never gave any explanation of all the circumstances of his trouble. He did only one thing in all he said. He asked Job if he was eternal, great, powerful, wise, perfect like God. If not, Job would have been better to have been quiet and to just trust him. In verse 4 through 38, God asks Job if he participated in the creation as he did. Now, that was a crushing, humbling question with an obvious no for the answer. God starts by establishing who he is. That's because everything is secondary to who God is. He establishes himself as the creator, commander of everything. He initiates, sustains, and fulfills everything in accordance with his plan. He also clarifies that his attention isn't just to the things that we consider important. Remember earlier in this book when Job may have gotten slightly sarcastic with his friends? In 38:21, God speaks to Job, maybe also using a bit of sarcasm as well. He had been asking him all kinds of questions about the creation of the universe, and he said to Job, "You were born then, and the number of your days is great." Now, God is not calling Job old. He is calling him out for not being eternal. Like, where were you? I don't remember seeing you there. Oh, right, I hadn't made you yet. He puts Job in his place, and rightly so. He created Job, the one who's now questioning him. He gets a bit of a rebuke from God, but doesn't get God's anger. God patiently reminds Job of the truth. Now, I'm going to leave it there for today. Thank you for watching. Have a great day and God bless. And Lord willing, next time I'll wrap up the book of Job.